you want to kind of inspire us with your words of wisdom and kind of tell us your travel schedule over the last couple of days?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I feel like the luckiest person on the planet, and really two reasons behind that. The first one is that for the last 15 years now, I've been the architect of what's, I think I can rightly say, is the biggest study of innovation that's ever been conducted. So when Maurice talked about 3 million data points earlier this morning, it's me that's been getting those 3 million data points and trying to make some sense out of them. I think a lot of companies find the innovation job very challenging, and it is almost a random thing. So trying to find underlying patterns has been a great opportunity for us. The second reason I think I'm the luckiest person is I think last year I worked in 24 countries, and pretty much any multinational that's got an innovation agenda tend to find us at some point or other. So it's great working with the companies to understand, what is it that's so difficult and how can we get better at it. One of the things I find interesting as part of that story is that all of those 24 countries that I visited have their own Innovation Nation program in place. And so everybody out there that I go and see says, right, we are going to be the innovation engine for our part of the world or for the world. But not everybody can do it, I think is the one of the conclusions from that. And this is some data. I'm not sure if you can see who those countries are on the bottom, but one of the things that we've been looking at is, okay, who does it well and what's different there compared to other parts of the world. And quite surprising to a lot of people is this is US patents per million population. I've used US patents here because, well, number one, 70% of the world's IP is held in the US. But number two, it's a signal that we intend to go exporting the things that we've been developing. And on the left-hand side there, the country that generates more patents per head of population than anybody else is Taiwan. And I was there 2 weeks ago working with companies out there trying to understand, okay, what's going on here? What's the engine behind that success? I've put Ireland on the right-hand side here. Ireland, I would say, bats above average. It's about 25th in the world using that kind of measure. But of course, I can't just use number of patents because, very simply, 97% of patents are never going to pay back the cost of filing the patent in the first place. So there's an awful lot of rubbish out there, and I think what we can learn from that statistic is it's very easy to be inventive. By definition, those 97% of patents that were granted were novel. But they were not innovative. They did not make the money. And one of the companies that we work with that I think has recognised that it's not just about number, it's about quality of patents is Samsung. And there's another, I think, quite telling statistic. Same idea again, US patents as my measure. But Samsung generates about 10 times the number of patents as the whole of Ireland against that metric. And what that currently means is Samsung in the US is averaging about 120 patents per week being granted. Okay? So they've come from nowhere to be, last year they were the world #2 patenter. And two things have happened, I think, inside the company that have created that enormous intellectual property engine. And perhaps both of them have got something to inform this discussion today. Number one is setting a big target. And so 12 years ago, the CEO of Samsung stood up and said, our mission statement is beat Sony. That was the official mission statement. The unofficial one was beat Japan, but beat Sony was the official one. About 4 years ago, that mission statement was achieved. And so they needed a new mission statement. And I learned last week the new mission statement is beat GE. So keep it simple, nice simple message, but a big stretch target for people. Number two, the part where I get to play in this game is that they've said, look, innovation is not a random thing. It cannot be a random thing if we are going to drive the business in the way that we want it to be. We need a process. And I've been part of the team they've now trained 15,000 people inside their company with a systematic innovation process. And it's all about someone somewhere out there has solved your problem, so giving people access to people in other domains, and it's giving people access to those tools and techniques. And as I say, one of the things that comes out of that, that combination of big target and give me the tools to do it, is 120 patents per week right now. And I think it's really just the start of the journey. Now, I've been talking a lot about patents here, and it's clearly an important aspect of the innovation story, but increasingly it's not the main part of the story. And I think one of the fascinating things last year at Samsung was the realization that the business innovation is as important, if not more important, than the technical innovation story. I think they learned a very big lesson from Apple and the success of things like iPod and iPhone. It's the business innovation that is really the engine behind those kind of successes. So what's happening at Samsung right now, the reason I was there recently is that part of those 3 million data points that we've been gathering are business innovation data points. Same idea again, someone somewhere has been thinking about your problem. So the job of my research team is to codify all that best practice and put it into one place, such that somebody from Samsung can say, here's what I think my problem is, point me towards somebody in another industry, usually that's already had to think about a problem like that. Well, even with a company like Samsung, if you look at innovation statistics, then it makes for fairly depressing reading. The number 90 keeps coming up. I think the most depressing number on that picture there is the second one. That's the one that says that we develop a new product or a new service and we're confident enough about it to expose it to a paying customer. How many of those things are going to deliver a return on investment for me? Answer about 1 in 10. Now, I think what that says is that there's a lot of randomness there. What Samsung is trying to do is to increase their hit rate a lot better than that. One of our other clients, and you may have noticed P&G's logo on the iCubed board of directors. The P&G target for innovation and their version of that number is 50%, which I think is quite an interesting measure. What they've effectively said by stating that 50% number is failure is inevitable in this innovation story. If we're not failing some of the time, then frankly we're not pushing the boundaries hard enough. And we need to know where those boundaries are, and 50% for them, they've decided is about right. So what we're helping them to do right now is to build processes and integrate processes into the company that enable that to happen. So perhaps as a final thought and message, I think there are the 3 things that come out of what we've been doing with companies. Number 1, innovation does not have to be the random eureka moment. I think a lot of CEOs in companies know that they're throwing money over the fence into the R&D teams and really not expecting much to come back. It doesn't have to be that way. There are processes, there are systematic ways of getting to the success. Second thing is that it's about protection of ideas once you've had them. 120 patents per week at Samsung says we can, we know where technology is evolving, and so job number 1 is make sure you own as big a chunk of that cake as you possibly can. And finally, and I don't think any great surprise, I think agility is becoming the dominant driver. It's the word I hear on the tip of every tongue that I speak to in Asia right now. It's in the classic story of the 2 men being chased by the bear, and one guy stops to put his running shoes on, and the other guy thinks he's crazy. He says, no, it's not about outrunning the bear, it's about outrunning you. And I'm just going to be faster than the other person. And again, I think there's a strong lesson to be learned from that, and that's what I think innovation agility is all about, being faster than the other person. So thank you for the opportunity.